you do that? How did you do that?
Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today is going to be the update to the Atronach tank build. This is the Warden tank for the Scalebreaker DLC. I know a lot of people have been waiting for the update for this for quite some time, but now it's about time you had one. So, basically the whole point behind this is to be as tanky as hell. He's a big biffer. He can take a lot of damage, but he can also help keep your group alive. He has very powerful damage shields, actual heals that do benefit the group rather than just being there for the sake of it. They're very strong, and of course his own self-survival is up as well based on the sets we're using. Now, I am going to go over everything in detail, but first of all we're going to go into the stats. So we're going to put our buffs on, make sure everything is running. We are on 9.7k max magic with almost 2k mag recovery. Now we are going to be spamming our abilities, so the recovery is important, not the actual pool. We are on 61.2k max health, which is enormous, and we're on 18.1k max stamina. 29% spell crit with 1.6k spell damage, which isn't a lot, but it will actually count, and we're on 31.6k resistances. Now if we swap bars to our back bar, our resists are actually 32.3. So either bar that we're on, I mean the back one is a bit stronger, but either one that we're on, if we get a minor resistance buff, we are actually going to cap out. On top of that, we are, of course, using 64 points into health to make as much max health as possible, but if you are uncomfortable with your stats, you can, of course, balance these out or change them to your liking, but just bear in mind, obviously, some of your skills will be affected because they are scared off of max health. We're using an Atronach Munderstone as well to increase our mag recovery, which is why, with a potion, we are sitting on 1.9k. But we do actually have a lot more than that. That is actually in the first skill, which we're not going to get to. But before we go there, of course, we are using max health, max stamina food, which is very important for our flat stats, and we're a stage 4 vampire. So I'm going to go into the skills in detail. If you're not familiar with these, this will probably help you quite a lot. If you are familiar with these, this might still help you because there might be stuff in here that you weren't necessarily aware of. If you skip this and ask questions that have already been answered in the comment section below, I will not be answering them, but if you do skip them, that is entirely your choice. Now, first of all, we are using the Blue Betty. I'm sure you saw that a moment ago. This little squid looking thing. Now, he is very simple. He costs nothing. He's from the Animal Companion skill line. It's a 4th ability to unlock. Doesn't cost you a thing. But for the 27 seconds that it's active, you do actually gain major sorcery, and you get 5,376 magicka back over the 20-second time duration, which actually amounts to roughly just far short of about 200 a second. So we look at combat metrics here. You can see your return. 192 a second, so that's really nice. Now this is about to run out, so once it does we can then check our stats. We won't use a potion this time, so we'll be on about 1.7k. So this is now about to disappear. In fact, we can get rid of it here. No, we can't. 5 seconds. 1.7k. As soon as that Betty disappears, nothing happens, so it doesn't show in your stats. So that's free recovery. Very nice indeed. Now, you must keep this up at all times. Not only is this beneficial to your sustain, but also, if you reactivate this, remember it's free, you will actually remove a negative effect from you. It's a cleanse. Very nice indeed. Free cleanse, extra spell damage, and extra recovery. You got nothing to lose here. It's absolutely brilliant. Next up, of course, is Polar Wind. This is in the Winter's Embrace skill line. 3rd ability to unlock. Starts off as Arctic Wind, morph it to Polar Wind. Now, this is absolutely nuts. This will heal you, plus give you a heal over time for 5 seconds. The initial heal is huge, and at the same time, this will heal another player. Within 12 meters, whichever one's got the lowest health at the time, whichever one you aim at, in fact, because you can aim this, although it will hit one randomly anyway, this will heal for the same as it heals you. Bear in mind, of course, their healing received is considered, so they may even get a bigger heal than you. This can actually heal in excess of 40k. And we're going to try and get a lucky crit here. Now, we'll get some buffs off this dummy just to give us the extra spell damage from the Templar passives, and then we'll give ourselves a heal. 22.7k flat, 40.2k crit, and that can heal someone else of the equivalent amount. It doesn't heal you or them, it heals you and them. So for keeping ourselves alive, or just for being aware of what's going on in the group, we can actually heal other people sometimes more than what another healer can actually put out in burst heals. It's absolutely friggin' mental. And this, again, It does consider your spell damage, but it scales off of your max health. So the higher your health, the stronger this is, and the more spell damage you have as well on top of it, obviously the stronger it is as well. If you went flat out spell damage with this with really, really high health, you can get some stupid numbers, but 40k is more than enough. We're the one with a big health bar anyway, so we don't need to make this any stronger, but it's nuts. Next up is Pierce Armor. This is very, very simple. It's in a sword and board skill line, or one hand and shield. First ability to unlock, starts off as Puncture, morph it to Pierce Armor. This cannot get any simpler. You stab a target with this, and it is taunted. It will only aim for you. Mechanics obviously considered, because some mechanics, they do hit other people, but the main focus is you. You are now the target, so you can do your job as the tank and keep that dude busy. But at the same time, this does apply Major Fracture and Major Breach. Now this reduces the target's resistances by 5280 for both physical and spell. So targets in PvE have 18,200 resistances. This strips them of 5280 straight away. This is a major debuff, however, so if someone else is using a Major Breach or Major Fracture as well, they do not stack. But the taunt, you must keep up 100% of the time. Do not let this last 15 seconds, then run out, and then reapply it. That's dangerous. That means the boss will spin around and punch someone during that 1 second downtime, if you like. Make sure you reapply it before it runs out. Next up is Broken. This is absolutely insane. Shimmering Shield. Now this is in the Winter's Embrace skill line, 4th ability you unlock. Starts off as Crystallized Shield, morph it to Shimmering Shield. This is absolutely crazy. Let's make sure we've got all our buffs and bonuses on here. That one will make more sense later. Now, this is scaled off of max health, and what this does is this will put a shield around you, as you can see, nice and shiny. Each one of those shields can take one shot. Projectile. So it doesn't matter whether it's an arrow or a fireball. Any projectile that you get hit by, one of those shields will absorb it. And it can absorb up to 98,000 damage. Once the 3 shields have been consumed by 3 hits, or once the 98k damage has been absorbed, that will then disappear. But every time you absorb a projectile, you will restore 806 magicka. So this ability is somewhat self-sustaining in some respect. And you'll gain Major Heroism for 6 seconds, giving you 3 ultimate every 1.5 seconds. Your ulti regen from this and your protection from projectiles is nuts. And this is especially important when you're up against targets that have machine gun mechanics, like Rakat or Lord Warden or anything like that, because you basically just cannot die. It's very similar to Absorb Magic, but which has been changed now, I believe. That's a different ability now. No, Absorb Missile is called now. This one will actually heal you and absorb a smaller amount of damage, whereas this one will give you ultimate back, give you magicka back. It won't heal you, but it will give you a massive damage shield. It's absolutely enormous. And again, pay very close attention to this. It scales off of maximum health. So the higher the health, the higher the shield. Same as this, the higher the health, the bigger the heal. And this as well is no different. Next up is Bone Shield. This is in the Undaunted skill line. 4th ability you unlock starts off as Bone Shield, morph it to Bone Surge. This is now almost, because of our health, a 20k damage shield. All you have to do is activate it. 20k damage shield for us almost. This also has a synergy attached to it, which can be taken by anyone in your group, as long as they're not on cooldown. And this will shield 5 other people with a damage shield, and that will absorb up to 30% of their max health for 6 seconds, and grant them major vitality increase in their healing received. Now just bear this in mind. If they take the synergy off of you, and they give themselves a huge damage shield and major vitality, which is very clear, you can increase their heals. This heal, that was about 40k crit if you're buffed. That is going to go much, much higher. They aren't going to need one that strong. That's ridiculous. But it does apply. So any heals that you pump out to those people will be so much stronger. And of course, any healers that are in the room that are healing them as well will then benefit by being able to heal them for more. Not to mention, of course, if they are another tank, for example, you're working in tandem with another tank and he's really, really low health and you pop this, you can basically one bang heal another tank and yourself. That is broken. They don't even need to try and protect themselves. You can do it for them. You're very, very strong. So you got to keep that up as and when you need to. Don't spam it too much though, because it is expensive on stamina. But it's a very important skill. Next up, of course, is Enchanted Forest. Now, this actually is a bit of a flex slot. This is our ultimate. It's in the green balance skill line. Starts off as Secluded Grove, morph it to Enchanted Forest. This, again, is another heal, and this is for the group, and this is broken as hell. If you apply this, like so, everyone inside of here will take heals, which is obviously the whole point of it. But at the same time, if they are low health, if they're under 50%, yourself included, you will gain 20 ultimate for every single person who is healed under 50% health at the time by the initial hit. This is only 88 ultimate. This is incredibly cheap. Bear in mind, we have passive ultimate from our light or our heavy attacks or anything like that for being in combat. We have 3 ultimate a second for 8 seconds. And if you keep doing light attacks, heavy attacks, and taking damage, this will continue. It won't run out. At the same time, we have Shimmer and Shield, which of course gives us 6 seconds worth of ulti regen as long as we're absorbing damage. So that can contribute as well. And you get ultimate back for healing low health targets. We basically can't run out. This is going to be stupid. Now, you can swap this out, of course, for a one-hand and shield ultimate if you need your own personal oh shit button. And if you do, you'll have this, Shield Discipline. It starts off as Shield Wall, morph it to Shield Discipline, and for 8 seconds, all blocking is free. This will just block for you. You can run at normal speed, and all of your one-hand and shield abilities cost you nothing. So, this taunt here is free for 8 whole seconds. So if you've got a massive, massive ad pool, maybe you're tanking Axes in a Furion Archive, put this ultimate on. You can use and abuse it as much as you want, and all your taunts for those Axes and such are free. Really, really handy skill. But again, that's a swap out. It's a choice you can make. You don't have to use this if you don't want to, but it is really, really nice. Now, a back bar. Lotus Blossom, of course, from the green balance skill line. 4th ability to unlock, starts off as Lotus Flower, morph it to Lotus Blossom. Again, heals are important. When you activate this ability, for 20 seconds, you are granted Major Prophecy, which will increase your spell crits. That is important because this is stacked off of course, your main health bonus, but it does consider spell stats. So spell crit, spell damage, all that good stuff boosts this, and this will crit more often. At the same time, of course, if you do a light attack or a fully charged heavy attack, you will heal you or a nearby ally. And this can heal stupid amounts of health. It's really, really powerful. You can actually fully heal another player just by getting a heavy attack and critting this heal. It's really, really nice. But above all, you've got to keep this on the whole time. Not just for the light and heavy attacks, but mostly for the crit chance. So if you activate it, you then have that bonus on both bars. If, of course, you're trial buffed and you have Minor Prophecy as well, from a sorcerer, this will put us up to 35% crit, which means we'll crit a lot more. But you got to have that bonus running all the time if you can help it. You can swap this out for other stuff if you prefer, especially if you're a vampire and you want to make use of Mist Form or Invigorating Drain, which I do use quite a bit. But for the most part, I basically just keep this here. It's really, really nice. Next up is, of course, Blockade of Frost. This does not have to be used. There are other options, but we'll just go over this one anyway. Second ability to unlock in the Destruction Staff skill line starts off as Wall of Elements, morph it to Elemental Blockade. Now this is really, really simple. Goes on the ground. Does ice damage to anyone caught inside of this. Why is that important? Because we don't really want to do damage, do we? Because we're a tank. It's important because there are passives to this, which can be applied, and also because we're using an ice stuff, it does have an extra bonus. Wall of Elements or Elemental Blockade does depend on the element type you are basically holding, the weapon you're using. So Flame will do more damage, Lightning can proc off Balance and Concussion, and Chilled, with this particular skill, can actually immobilize targets. So if enemies come into this area of effect and they are chilled, they will be stuck on the spot. They can't move, which is really handy for CC. We do have another ability that does that as well, but when you double them up, they're really, really handy. So that's a really nice utility skill right there. Failing that, in the Destruction Staff skill line, you're not really limited to choice. You can use Crush and Shock to do long-range interrupts if you prefer, which is really handy, especially from a tank's perspective, because you can kind of see a lot more about what's going on. Especially when you're standing behind the boss, you've got the ads near you and all that good stuff. You can sometimes peek around and interrupt stuff that's behind people, what they probably can't see. There are situations where that will happen, so that's a good swap out if you prefer. Also, if you don't have Elemental Drain in your group, or Magic Steal from perhaps a Templar using Restore an Aura, then of course you can apply Ele Drain yourself. Doesn't cost anything, it just applies minor Magic Steal to the target. It does apply Major Breach, but you're already covering that with your Pierce Armor, so don't worry about that particular part of it, but you can make everybody get magic back for damaging the target. Another choice you can make. Also, if you really want to, you could use Pulsar, which does apply minor Mangle, to targets, not bosses, however, it doesn't work on those, but other targets you can make their health reduced by 10% for 10 seconds, and obviously they die quicker, so that is actually another group utility ability as well. So you've got many choices here, which, because of the ice stuff itself, I mean, you've got this one here which can stun or immobilize the targets rather, this one which can give people magic back, this one which can reduce the health of targets. You got a lot of utility here, so you can choose whatever you want. If you use these with a flame or light and stuff, obviously they'd have a little bit of a different effect, but for us it's actually quite nice to have this little arsenal here. The choice is yours, however, but I really like the Wall of Elements because things just run into it and then just stand still. There's nothing you can do. Now, next up is Expansive Frostcloak. Winter's Embrace, first ability to unlock, starts off as Frostcloak, morph it to Expansive Frostcloak. Yes, the other morph does give you minor protection, but to be fair, there are so many Stam DPSs out there now running Circle of Protection as a heal, you've probably got minor protection running anyway. So, what we've done is we've chosen the one that gives the wider range. So this has a 28 meter radius, which is massive. All you do is press this. I have Major Ward and Major Resolve, and so does everybody else in the group. Keep this up, you're buffed, and so are they. No other class in the game can give other people Major Ward and Major Resolve. It's really helpful. So make sure you keep that up at all times. It is a major buff, by the way, so they don't stack with other types of exactly the same one, but you can be the one to supply it. Just don't let it run out. Next up is Frozen Device. Love this skill. This one is our chain ability, basically. Winter's Embrace, 5th ability to unlock, starts off as Frozen Gate, morph it to Frozen Device. Now what this does is this will put down a circle on the ground, and anyone that runs into this, if they can be CC'd, so not bosses, they will be chained to your feet and immobilized for 3 seconds, and they'll have frost damage dealt to them, and they'll be affected with Major Maim, reducing their damage they can do by 30% for 4 seconds. And you can have 3 of these up at a time. Now, I know a lot of people have trouble with this because it can be quite tricky. Instead of the usual chain idea where you hit the target and it comes to you, you place it on the ground. And anything that stands in it will consume it and appear here, where you are. And you can put 3 down at once. What good is that? Well, if you know the content and you know where things are coming from, you can preempt this. So instead of panicking and trying to cast these all at once, you can have one over here because you know an enemy is coming in about 10% health time. You can have one over here, you can have one over here, and then you just stand there and wait for them to spawn. There's lots of different situations where this can be very useful. It's a really good chain ability anyway, especially with the debuff, but if you are clever about the mechanics of the situation you're in and you know where things come from, you could really utilize this. Especially in Lair of Marsalok, where you have to protect Celine from the Horvers. You can literally just keep these down around her, and anything that goes into it will just be chained straight to you. That's just a small example. There's lots of different places in the game where that can be very beneficial. Takes a bit of practice, but it's so worth it. Now, also, just note, they do sit there for 30 seconds, so you've got plenty of time. The whole thing about the Warden, especially on a tank's perspective, is its ability to just slow things down. The ability to pin things down, the CC abilities, the freedom to just control the room. And this long duration really does help towards that as well, because you don't have to be fast-paced like you do with change. You can just place them and wait. Now, next up is Gripping Shards. Now, this is also a very helpful skill. This is mostly for CCs. Now, what this does is when you put this down on the ground, the icy shards that come up from the ground will be there for about 12 seconds. But for the first 3 seconds that anyone enters it, they will be immobilized. Now, as you can see here, it does have damage as well, and that is scaled off of our max health. So although we're not strictly a DPS, this is quite a hefty amount of damage for a ground-based AoE, and because of our high health bonus, we can actually contribute a little bit towards the group. So we've got this down that does immobilize enemies when they get in. But the long duration of it, they don't get re-immobilized after they're already stunned, already stopped. They will just do it once, and then for the rest of the duration, they will just take damage. But because we're using Wall of Elements at the same time, if they are affected by a chilled status effect, which they should be, after this immobilization is worn off, they can be immobilized again by our overlapping CC. It's very handy indeed. Plus, this has a heightened chilled status effect on it. The chilled status effect is minor maim, and basically what that does is it reduces the damage that they can do to everybody by 15%. So, this is major maim for 30%, and this is minor maim, and so is this actually if they get chilled from it. And they stack. minor and major stack. So you can dramatically reduce the actual damage output of anyone close by to you, bosses or not. It's very, very strong. Now, obviously, bosses can't be immobilized, but they can still be hit with minor maim. Next up, of course, is Permafrost. This is our main ultimate on our back bar. Now, this is from the Winter's Embrace also. Starts off as Sleet Storm, morph it to Permafrost. This will do damage as well, and in Area of Effect, and ice damage again. You can see we're going with a theme here. But enemies that are caught inside of this have their movement speed reduced, just like they do here. And just like they will here as well if they get affected by the effects. But this also applies major protection, reducing the damage taken by you and your group. So anyone that is within range of this particular storm is protected with a massive, massive mitigation bonus. And damaging an enemy 3 times will stun them. So they'll take 3 ticks of damage and they'll be completely stunned. So we've got immobilization, we've got snares, we've got maim, we've got protection, and we've got stuns all on our back bar. Plus our CC ability here where we can pull them in, our actual chain ability. We have a lot of control. This is why we have high magic recovery, however. Because this here, this here, this here, this, all of these, none of them are actually boosted by max magic. None of them. So we don't need a massive pool. We just need to be able to use them. So we've gone high recovery, low flat. And as long as you keep your potions up and your Betty up, you will be absolutely fine utilizing these all of the time. Not to mention, of course, we are using an ice staff on the back bar. And if you're familiar with the base mechanics of the game, a magic weapon, if you do a heavy attack with it, will give you back resources for that pool. So all we have to do is heavy attack. And that is very important when we come to our passives, because we can gain from it in 2 ways. Now, passives. Animal companions, of course, you are using 1 ability from here. Now, when one of your animal companions is killed or unsummoned, you restore health. Why is this important? Because this is free. And if we need to cleanse, we can just recast it. And we receive a heal. And yes, it can crit also. 2.4k heal there, plus you can get heal and receive bonuses. You can make it a lot more. Very, very nice indeed. Make sure you get that passive. When you cast an animal companion ability while you are in combat, you regenerate 4 ultimate. This can happen once every 8 seconds. So obviously in combat, it's a free ability. Make sure occasionally you pump out one of these, at least once every 8 seconds, and you will get ultimate for it. Really, really handy. Increases your mag recovery and stam recovery by 12% if an animal companion ability is slotted. It is slotted, so that does contribute. Very nice indeed. This increases our damage done by 2% for each animal companion ability slotted. Now, we have 1. It's not that important, but we do have damage from this, and our ultimate as well. So if we pop these and then switch to our front bar, we do get a little bit of a bonus. It's not massive, but you can get the bonus if you want. Green balance is actually very, very important. When you heal yourself or an ally while under 40% health, you will gain major mending. So, if we are very, very low health and we heal, we get that bonus. Now, we need to try and simulate that so we can see just how effective it is. So we're going to nuke our health a little bit, and then we're going to give ourselves a little bit of a heal. Did I buy it? Where did it go? We'll use the major skill here. We don't use this on the build, by the way. This is just here for demonstration purposes. So we'll get rid of as much health as we can. We'll make sure that we've got him there. We'll use him for a heal in a second to give us major mending, and then we'll pop a big, big heal. So we're under 40%. It's got to be a green balance ability. So, what do? Light attack that. And then heal. 27k flat. 27k without a crit. That's nuts. That is absolutely nuts. So we'll go low health again. We'll make sure this buff is still on. We'll take a green balance heal. 49,000. You are not going to die. If you go low health, you are so safe because your heals get boosted to hell if you are clever about it. That is why you must keep up your Lotus Blossom, because your light attack from that skill or heavy attack will heal you, and it will contribute towards that passive. Or if you use an ultimate or anything to that effect. It's very, very handy indeed. Hopefully that was a accurate enough demonstration. Now, Next up, of course, when you heal an ally with a green balance ability, you gain 250 magic or stamina, whichever resource pool is lower, and this can happen once a second. Now, if you are using this ultimate, or if you choose to use Bud and Seeds or any of these other abilities, if you heal somebody else, as long as they actually receive a heal, it doesn't count if they're full health, you will actually get 250 magic back per second, because that is our lowest pool. So we have high mag recovery anyway. We have the Betty, which gives us recovery on top. And, of course, for healing other people, which we are going to be doing, we will receive more here. Our recovery is huge. Increase your healing done with a green balance ability by 2% for each one slotted. We do have one on this bar, just the one, and so that does boost this by 2%. On the back bar, again, we have one there as well, so same applies. Now, it's only green balance abilities that are affected. So this light and heavy attack bonus here, and this will be affected, or Bud and Seeds if you choose to use that. It's not massive, but it does contribute to area of effect heals, and people can take a synergy from it, so it's quite handy, but you've got choices there. And finally, when you activate a heal on yourself or an ally, you grant the target minor toughness, increasing their health by 10%. Now, any heal that we do to anybody will give them that bonus, and we are going to be doing that. We're going to be healing people all the time, especially with light attacks, heavy attacks, and our ultimate as well. We're going to be spamming this as much as we can. But all you need to do to activate this for yourself is recast your pet, because recasting it gives you a heal. That heal gives you minor toughness. And that is why we're on 61k health. Now, Winter's Embrace, of course, is very, very important. This increases your chance of applying chilled to enemies with Winter's Embrace abilities. We actually do have one here, this is as well. We have Winter's Embrace abilities. Their chance to apply chilled status effects is heightened. Make sure you get this. This will increase your physical and spell resistance by 500 for each Winter's Embrace ability slotted. We have one here, and we have one here. We've got 2 on the front bar, that's 1,000 resists. On the back bar, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 2k resistances on the back bar. So when we swap, we're still tanky. Reduces the effectiveness of snares applied to you by 15%. That's really handy. We don't want to be slow, especially not as a tank. This increases your magic and frost damage by 6%. Now, we're not doing any magic damage. We are doing a lot of frost damage. It's not normally a case that a tank does have to apply loads and loads of damage and such. But since we do actually do damage, especially based on our max health, this can help. So it's not too bad. Now, we are using one-handed shield, of course, on the front bar. This reduces the cost of all your one-handed shield abilities and reduces the cost of blocking. This one increases weapon damage of the abilities from this skill line, but of course this does also reduce the amount of damage you can block. So that's handy as well. This improves your standard bash attacks, which is not that important, but the reduction to cost for bashing is. Increases the amount of damage you can block from projectiles and range attacks by 14%. You want to get that. And don't forget, of course, because of that bonus there, we are reducing the effectiveness of the strength of them when they come in. And we're absorbing them, which makes this massive, massive shield even more effective. And of course, this increases your movement speed while blocking. When you block, you're slow. So this speeds you up a bit. We are using Destruction Staff, and this is very important. If you are a DPS, there is a passive you do not want. If you are a tank, there's one you do want. That's when using an Ice Staff, and this is the one. Tri-Focus. Fully charged Frost Staff heavy attacks not only give you resources back, but they taunt the enemy for 15 seconds and give you a 4.5k damage shield. Why is that important as a DPS to not buy that passive? Because it taunts. It makes the enemy chase you. Running away will not save you because you deliberately got aggro. If you're a tank using an Ice Staff, you need this. If you're a DPS or a healer using an Ice Staff, you don't need this. Be very aware of what that does. I've seen so many pickup groups with DPS running around the room in circles, screaming, "Get it off me," and they taunted it. So just be aware of this. And this is why it's important for us to have high recovery, but not to panic if we go too low. Because if we waste all of our magic here, heavy attack, it's not going to take much to get it. And this isn't a wasted movement. Normally, if you're heavy attacking, most people assume that you're not going to be doing enough damage, you're not going to be doing this, you're not going to be doing that, you're not going to be effective in your role. Well, heavy attacking is a taunt. So we re-aggroed the target, got a damage shield, got stuff back, all at the same time. There's nothing to lose. Takes a little time to wind up, time it. Of course, you do need the other passives. Your Destruction Staff abilities ignore 10% of the enemy's spell resistance. We don't do a lot of damage, but this will help. Increases your chance to apply burning, concussion, and chilled status effects by 100%. We have high chilled status effect bonuses already in our Winter's Embrace skill line, and this further pushes it as well, so our Wall of Elements is actually more likely to apply it. Minor Maim is going to be up almost all the time. Now, this is very important, and this only applies to you having the stuff equipped. So no, it does not count on your front bar, but it does count on your back bar. And for having a Frost Staff, we reduce the cost of blocking by 36% and increase the amount of damage we can block. So we have that passive on our Sword and Board, but we also have it on our Ice Staff. That's very, very important. You can tank with an Ice Staff. They are designed for it. Lightning Staves, Flame Staves do not get this passive. So if you are one of those tanks that are using Lightning or Flame on the back bar, don't block on that bar. You don't get any bonuses. You need to be on your Sword and Board. But for us, we get it. Very handy indeed. So heavy attack gives us a taunt and a damage shield and magic back, and this allows us to block. Now just bear in mind, of course, if you do block on your back bar, instead of costing you stamina, it will cost you magic. Now that is important. We have a very small bar, but we do have recovery all the time, and yes, the Betty will still give us recovery. Now, if you are low on stamina, you can of course heavy attack, and that will give you stam back. But say for example the boss is coming in with a heavy attack and you haven't got time to do so. If you can get to your back bar quick enough, you can use your magic pool to block it. Also, if you've got no magic and you're on the back, switch to the front, you can use your stam pool to block it. Although we don't have massive resources, we do have two places where we can block and benefit no matter what. If one's out, the other one will work. Be very careful when you do that, because obviously swapping bars drops your block briefly, but utilize both bars. Just be aware, of course, if you run out, you can't block anything. And finally, when you kill an enemy with a Destruction Staff ability, you restore 3600 Magicka. So, if you heavy attack it, light attack it, Wall of Elements, Crushing Shock, Pulse, or anything from that skill line, and you kill it, you get magic back. Very important indeed. We're not using any light armor, we're not using any medium armor, we're using 7 heavy. This will increase our physical and spell resistance for each piece worn. This will give us health recovery. That's not that important because we're a vampire anyway, but you will restore 108 magic and stamina for being hit once every 4 seconds, and that is actually multiplied by the amount of pieces of armor you have worn that are heavy. We have 7, so we get a 757 point bonus. So just for being hit, we get stuff back, whether we're blocking or not. This will increase our maximum health by 2% for each piece worn as well. We're using 7, so we get a massive 14% bonus. This will increase your magicka and stamina return from your heavy attacks. So, because we're wearing 5 pieces or more, our heavy attacks give us much more resources back. This increases our healing received by 8%, so any heal we receive is boosted. That is extremely important. You'll understand why when we get to the sets. Not to mention the heals, of course. We are a vampire. I do use these abilities occasionally. This one to build ultimate really quickly if I don't have to be holding block for too long, so you can utilize that occasionally if you prefer. And misform sometimes if I'm tanking Arthurian Archive and I'm on the axes. If I run too low on resources and I'm in a bit of trouble, you can do one of two things. You can swap to your back bar and block with your magic and pray, or you can use some of your magic and just put this on and you won't be knocked down, and it's really hard to kill you. Just bear in mind, of course, while this is active, you don't get heals. Anyway, they're flex slot swap outs you can put with whatever. I'm not going to go too far into those. I've done that on my other tank videos, and it's kind of a choice thing. For the most part, you won't really need them. This, however, is very important. Increases your magic and stamina recovery by 10%. So we use both bars. We use magic and stamina. We'll take this. And, of course, reduces the damage taken by up to 33% based on your missing health while below 50%. So the lower our health, the less damage we take. We get tankier and tankier and tankier. Just bear in mind, by the way, 50% of our health is just over 30k. We still have 30k health left when this passive kicks in. And under 40% health, remember, we get major mending if we heal from a green balance ability. So we can go stupidly low and then get a massive crit to go back up to full health. Really handy. Fighters Guild, this is actually quite important, this one here. We don't have this on here at the moment, but you can buy this. You will gain 9 ultimate when you kill an undead Daedra or werewolf. Based on the fact that we have this here, and we're doing a reasonable amount of ground-based AoE damage, we could get kills. And if you do, you'll be rewarded with ultimate. And remember, our ultimate is so cheap that this will actually be able to be almost spammed in some situations. So make sure you do get that passive, because you can benefit from those lucky kills where something dies just by you leaving your stuff on the ground. It's quite helpful. Major skill we don't need. Sigil we don't need. Undaunted, of course. Now, regardless of what role you are, you will need to take synergies. Every single synergy in the game is beneficial. They will heal you. They'll give you resources back. They'll give you a shield. Give you all manner of different things. Or they could do extra damage. Whatever. Take the synergies. Because not only do they have a bonus to whatever they do when you pick them up, but this also applies. You will gain 4% of your maximum health, magicka, and stamina for doing so, regardless of what the synergy does. So make sure you take the synergies. No matter what role you are, take them. This also is actually beneficial to us. We're not using multiple different types of armor, we're just wearing the one, but we will take the 2% bonus for wearing the heavy type to our max health, stamina, and magic. Very, very handy indeed. We are, of course, an Imperial. 2k max health, 2k max stam, and reduce the cost of all of our abilities by 3%. That includes our ultimates and our skills. And when you deal direct damage, you heal yourself for 379 and restore 333 magicka and stamina once every 5 seconds. This light attack here, this heavy attack, this stab, they are all direct damage. Light attack from this, heavy attack from this, that will all count towards direct damage. Our basic passive stuff that we will be doing will count, and that will give us resources back. Very, very handy. Does work alongside the Constitution passive. You will be surprised how quickly you can actually get back your resources just by doing what you're doing. It's very, very strong indeed. Imperial is solid. You can use any race you like, but for this, we're actually using an Imperial. Finally, the most important passive in the game, in my opinion, medicinal use. We are using crafted tripods, so we get health back, magic back, stamina back, and 20% increased recovery to stamina, magic, and health. But they last 35 seconds, or 36 in fact, when they're crafted. But if you have this passive, they last 47.5. So they last longer than the 45 second cooldown, which means we can keep up those passive 20% recovery bonuses all the time without fail. Do not let your potions sit there doing nothing. Take them all the time. Very important. Now we're going to go into the gear. If you've been using this before, you are not going to be disappointed. If you haven't, then it's time for you to go shopping. So, there is one set, of course, that you will have to farm. The other you can buy. So, you need the Leeching in Defending. This sword comes from Lord Warden. Very easy to pick up. You can go on normal in Imperial City Prison, pick up the sword, and get out. You don't have to do it on vet. And what this does is this will give you a health bonus, a heal and taken bonus, a health bonus again. Now you have a 20% chance here when you get hit by any damage, by any enemy, to spawn a poison cloud underneath their feet. It's got a fairly sizable radius, about 5 meters. Anything caught inside of that, the character included, or the NPC included that actually did the damage in the first place, will take damage every 1 second. And every 1 tick of damage that is done to each individual target, no matter how many there are, each one of those will heal you. This is incredibly strong. It looks flat, like 1.4k is not enough. It goes so high with heal and receive bonuses, heal and done bonuses, especially major mending if you have that running. And of course, in our champion points, we've also accommodated for this as well. It's really, really powerful. Now, this is our survival set. It's very hard to die with this on. Now, I'm going to demonstrate this in a moment, but basically for the simplest way to explain it is the more you get hit, the better. And some enemies are really, really large, so you would assume that it's just going to be a small amount of damage that does and a small amount of heals that you get back. Not necessarily. Sometimes it's based on the real estate of the target, so the larger they are, sometimes the bigger the heals. The biggest heal I've seen in this recently, ever since the updates, is pushing around 38k. It's really, really powerful. Very strong indeed, and obviously the more enemies, the better. Now, we've gone Sword and Board and Ice Staff with 3 jewelry, but you can put this in any order you like. Just make sure that you have it on both bars. We've gone Defended on the front with an infused shield, and we've gone Defending on the back. Now, the back bar glyph, you can do whatever you want with. So, if you want to change the trait and go with Crushers and all that kind of stuff, absolutely fine. If you want a specific glyph, that's also absolutely fine. Especially this one. This one's actually really, really helpful. But you could have a magic recovery one as well. So, when you put down your Wall of Elements, it can constantly proc, and you always get that magic back. That can be useful too. But the choice is yours. But the front, we've used Poisons. This here actually gives us stamina back every second for 6 seconds, and then has a 4-second cooldown before it can be reapplied again. All you have to do is light attack, heavy attack, or stab it with a taunt, and these can actually give you recovery towards your stamina even while you're blocking. So it's very, very handy to have. You don't have to have them, but I really do like them. They really do help. We're using 1 piece of Malabeth, which comes from Wayrest Sewers 2, which is quite a simple dungeon, to be fair. There's an All About Mechanics guide for that if you are not familiar with it. And we're using the Shoulders of Mighty Chewdown. Now, you don't have to go into Ruins of Mazatun to get this. You can just unlock it from the boxes from the Undaunted keys. So that saves you going into another DLC dungeon. This one will require it, and there is a guide for that as well, but you can go on normal. This one will require vet, and you just need the helmet. All you have to do is kill the last boss. Helmet's yours. Preferably in heavy. Whatever you can get for now is fine. This has a 1-piece health bonus, and Chewdown has our physical and spell resistance bonuses. Now, of course, you can use full monster sets if you prefer. You could use the full Malabeth setup, which means you'll need the shoulders as well. And if you do get hit, you have a beam attached to the target, and you actually gain major vitality, so our heals are higher. But for the purpose of our flat stats, we've gone 1 piece and 1 piece. But whatever you want to use, honestly, is up to you. Also, Stonekeeper is a very good choice. But if you do choose to drop the Chewdown shoulder, you can also use Pirate Skeleton as well. It's the same bonus. You will, of course, lose physical and spell resistance, and you will have to plug your champion points to make sure that makes sense. Otherwise, you're going to drop too low. So, finally, of course, is Plague Doctor. Now, we've got a lot of skills that are based off of our max health, so we have pumped this up as high as we possibly can. We've got Infused on all the large pieces, so legs, chest, and head. And we've gone Sturdy on everything else except for the shoulder, which we've gone Reinforced in just to make sure our resistances are plugged. So these are really, really helpful. This is as simple as it gets. Max health, healing received, and max health again. It's nuts. Health on all the jewelry, and magic recovery on all of them as well to boost out our mag recovery. Now, if you prefer, you can change the traits, obviously, and go with Infused to give you even more mag recovery. But honestly, 1, it's not necessary. And 2, if you drop your health, you will lose out on some of your skills. They will be weaker. So just bear that in mind. Once you understand how this all works, you can tweak it a little bit more to your liking if you prefer. But honestly, flat out how it is absolutely fine. Now, we're going to go into the champion points, and I'm going to show you a quick demonstration of what to expect from the Leechin. It's disgusting. You've seen it before, I'm sure, with the Almost Immortal Warrior. But we're going to demonstrate it anyway. So, champion points. Red Tree first, 72 points into Ironclad to reduce the amount of direct damage we take. With the tank, we're going to take loads of it, so 23% reduction there. 64 and 64 with 51 here to give us a 13% reduction to all damage, plus 19% dot reduction. If you have the Unchained passive, which we do, you will reduce the cost of your next stamina ability by 80% if you have to break free. And you will have to do that. You will get stunned a lot. And our stamina ability, of course, is Bone Shield, which is expensive, but this reduces the cost. So if you break free, pop a Bone Shield and then recover that way. 19 points into Quick Recovery to give us a 5% increased heal and receive bonus. And of course, since we've got this passive open, if you resurrect someone, you most likely will be with this. While you resurrect another player, you take 15% less damage. So if you do have to be that person to res, then of course you take less damage for doing so. Just remember, by the way, a little bit of a pro tip. If you're going to res someone as a tank, taunt the boss first. Then that way, while you're resing, it doesn't run wild around the room. And also, it doesn't smack the person you just picked up. 56 points into Warlord to reduce the cost of break free. 64 in Tenacity to give us a 13% return on our heavy attacks, whether it be stamina or magic. And 75 points into Arcanus to give us a 14% recovery bonus. 9 points into Tumbling to reduce the cost of dodge roll. We're not going to do it that much, but we'll get the cost down a little bit. And 66 into Shadow Ward to reduce the cost of blocking. Also, we are 75 points in this tree, which means what? Treasure Hunter passive. If you loot chests, you get higher quality loot. 75 into Bless to increase all of our healing done. This does include the Leeching set. Makes it stronger. And all of our heals. This here will increase the strength of our critical heals. As you saw earlier, we can crit heal like hell. It's really, really strong. This is why it contributes. But you need to pay attention to this passive here. Vengeance. You only need 10 points in this trait. When you block 3 spells within 10 seconds of each other, you will have kind of this champion point area. This wizard dude, the mage even. You'll have him in a tiny, tiny symbol on your buff timers. That's what you're looking for. When that stacks up to 3, that is when you have the opportunity to cast a magic ability, and you will guaranteed crit strike with it. This also counts for heals. So, if you use your Polar Wind, when this is stacked up to 3 times, you will definitely crit heal with it. So you can control it. You can guarantee a full heal for you and whoever else takes the heal. Very, very strong indeed. I have got a video on my channel called Vengeance OP. It's a bit old, but it does explain and demonstrate this particular passive very, very well, so hopefully that will help. 2 points into Physical Weapons Expert, because we've got nowhere else to put them, and this is the one that confuses people. 81 into Thaumaturge, 64 into Mighty. Why is that? Because the leeching is damage over time, and it's poison. And these two bonuses here boost the hell out of it. So obviously the higher the damage output, the stronger the heal you received after your heal and receive bonuses are considered. This is very, very strong indeed. Not to mention, of course, we have the Exploiter passive, which means if anything is off balance, and they will be, especially if they are blocked, you will do more damage, meaning the Legion will pump out higher heals. And we have Last Stand. If you're not absorbing any projectiles right now, and you're not using your Shimmering Shield, and your health goes really, really low, remember we are a vampire, so we have massive, massive mitigation. We have Major Mending if we go low health, so we can heal really, really quickly. But also, if we go below 20% health, we do gain ultimate very rapidly with this passive here. And it's going to happen once every 20 seconds. So don't panic if you go low health. You are safe at low health, and you can take massive advantage of many, many passives. Now, we're going to go into Hellra. We'll make sure we put this onto Vet, of course. And then we will jump in there and go and get smacked by stuff. Now we're going to run all the way up to the door here. We'll grab everything. You're never going to need to tank this much stuff. It's not necessary, but we're going to show you how strong the setup is anyway. So we'll grab absolutely everything. Go straight up to the door. Oh, that's mental. Projectiles just getting absorbed. Okay, let's jump in here. Resist buffs up. Keep them up. Look at that. Remember, if you run low on one bar, swap to the other. Always heavy attack if you run a little bit too low. Resources aren't too bad. We are getting hit by a lot more stuff than we should. So obviously you can see that you will drain stamina. But if you can time your heavy attack blocks, you can actually heavy attack them back in return. See how quickly our magic comes back? Now, of course, this is with the trees on the front. If you were to use the block ulti, you would have a lot more stam sustain because you can just heavy attack from underneath it. But even so, we are using an extreme situation as an example here. You do not need to tank this much stuff. But you can. Ulti regen is absolutely filth. Especially once they start hitting you with projectiles. Also, you can cleanse all these abilities as well. You can see the bleeds falling off. Fire status effect, goodbye. You can cleanse all manner of stuff. Not everything, but a lot of good stuff. Not all bleeds either. Only a couple of them. But it's still better than nothing. There's less damage you have to take, and more survivability you have. And these are actually dying. Whoops. Low health, really, really low. Boom, big heal. And another one. Anyway, you get the idea. We don't need to stand there all day. We could, but we don't need to. Just jump off the cliff. Whee! That was quick. So, hopefully that helped. Hopefully that wasn't too boring. Hopefully you have a better understanding of how to approach this particular build. If you are struggling with your sustain, which you shouldn't be, but if you are, bear in mind, of course, you can heavy attack more often. You can change your health to more stamina, if you prefer. You can change a couple of the traits to more sturdy if that helps you, or maybe even a glyph on your jewelry. Whatever you need to do to alter it to your liking is entirely up to you. But if you take it as it is, you should do just fine with it. You are never going to have to fight that many targets at once. So first of all, thank you all very, very much for watching. I hugely appreciate the support. If you are not subscribed already, please do hit that button. It is free. Furthermore, if you want to help support outside of YouTube, there are some links in the description for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, and of course the website XynodeGaming.com, where all the written guides are for the builds, the dungeon guides, the trial guides, the arena guides, all that good stuff. And of course, don't forget, I do live stream on Twitch every single night from 10 PM UK time, unless I say otherwise on Twitter. Once again, thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.